Welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers, by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barger. Coming up on the show
Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in this episode now, right now.
We'll get to it! But first we've got Rock Band 3. We've got to tickle some ivories with its new peripheral, the keyboard.
Imagine there's no heaven.
And
Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
And can you guess the game for this week? The sooner you go read the news, the sooner we can get to Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Good game.
Ukrainian studio GSC Game World is creating a TV series based on the world of Stalker. Due to hit the small screen in 2012, the series will cross over heavily with the game Stalker 2, which will be released in the same year.
Бесшумный взрыв навсегда изменил жизнь в пределах зоны отчуждения.
This won't be the first cross-media outing for the post-nuclear mutant-infested FPS franchise. The games have already spawned a series of over 45 novels that have topped the sci-fi bestseller lists in Russia. Bad news at Harmonix. Parent company Viacom is looking to sell the studio that gave the world Guitar Hero and Rock Band just 4 years after it bought it out for $175 million. Viacom has not cited any performance or profitability issues. Rather, the global media megacorporation seeks to focus its efforts, and owning its own musical video game developer isn't part of its new vision. Viacom is in talks with several potential buyers and hopes to divest the Cambridge, Massachusetts-based developer in short order. Nintendo has filed for a trademark for the phrase, "It's on like Donkey Kong." The game's publisher recently lodged an application with the US Patent and Trademark Office seeking legal protection and control over an old and popular Nintendo phrase that has a number of possible interpretations depending on how it's used. In an amazing coincidence, Nintendo will be launching Donkey Kong Country Returns in December.
Good game.
You know the day destroys the night. Night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide. Bring on through, bring on through, bring on through, bring on through.
Rock Band has had a bit of a shaky history here in Australia, with the first one taking over a year to see a local release, and the second one just never came out. But third time's a charm, and Rock Band 3 has arrived with no delays.
It's not quite the charm though, Hex. We've been trying to get a hold of one of those 102-button fancy, real fake guitars to test out the Pro Guitar mode, but unfortunately due to limited supply, we couldn't actually get one sent to us, and we couldn't even buy one, so we haven't been able to test out that particular mode.
We did get our hands on the keyboard though, so we can test that one out, and if it makes sense down the line, we'll do a mini update on the Pro Guitar.
Yes, but first things first, the music. I gotta say, this is the best set list I've ever seen in a music game. There's just so many great songs here to choose from and a wide variety of artists.
Yeah, you get the feeling that every song has been carefully chosen based on what instrument it's fun for and how well it works with all the other songs.
Also, if you have Rock Band 1 or 2, then you can import the songs from those games into Rock Band 3. Combine this with the ever-expanding DLC. Our resident music game nut Gog has over 400 songs in his Rock Band library that he's been building up over the years. I think it's a real investment for some people, hey Hex?
Yeah, I think it's probably the most expensive game there is if you really get into it. I mean, just buying all the standard instruments will set you back a big chunk of change, but if you now want all the pro instruments as well, you're going to be laying out close to $1,000. But as you say, it's a solid investment if music games really are your thing.
And all the DLC you bring over will work with it, but they won't have any pro mode parts to them. Every new song that gets released will have a pro keys and drums, but you'll have to pay extra if you want the pro guitar.
I also liked how they would suggest songs for you to download in your song list. At first I thought it was cheeky to shove DLC in my face like that, but they actually make really good recommendations based on your other DLC.
The pro keyboard mode will definitely teach you how to play music if you stick with it. Don't expect to waltz in and get by with your current rhythm game skills. You will need to spend a lot of time in the tutorials, and like learning any instrument, you'll need to practice regularly. It's more work than fun at first, but ultimately it rewards you with something that you can keep for the rest of your life.
Yeah, the tutorials are great too. They're really comprehensive, and it's nice to get that instant feedback about, what you're getting wrong or right. It is kind of tricky though, because you're constantly looking up at the TV and not down at the keyboard, so it takes a while to get a feel for where your hand is supposed to be and where all the keys are. In Pro mode, the note stream displays 18 keys at a time and will shift up or down as the song requires. It's a really clever way of notating the music, but it is a bit daunting at first with so many possible buttons coming at you.
It can be hard seeing what you're doing when you're playing with a full band because your note stream gets squished right up, but the keyboard is broken up into the distinct rhythm gaming colour sets. In fact, some of the keys have raised bits of plastic which help you find the keys a little bit easier.
The tutorials teach you to play using only your right hand, but if you're only ever learning the right hand part, then I guess you're never really playing the songs with 100% accuracy. Still, on Expert in Pro mode, it certainly seems to be note for pretty much the whole song.
Out of the 83 songs, only 63 of them have keyboard parts, and some of those don't actually have much at all. And heck, I can't see any lefties being able to play this properly unless they ignore star power and the touchpad or do some sort of crazy hand crossing over thing.
I think if you're interested in learning to play some instruments, then this is a really great first point of entry. You get a drum, guitar, and a keyboard trainer all in one. I guess the biggest drawback is the fact that you won't actually learn how to read music, but I mean, you'll still learn to play, and I think even some trained musicians will get a kick out of, learning and playing some of these tracks too.
Yeah, although if you don't want to go pro, you can still do the standard modes, and then you really just have 5 keys and 5 colours to worry about. Just like playing guitar basically, except nowhere near as much fun. I think you just have to play this in pro mode to get anything out of it.
As for the rest of the game, the career is now broken up into road tours, which will have you playing solo on any instrument or with a local or online band. And you work your way up from touring the local pub scene to jetting around the world. There's no real story, but there's some great little cutscenes that really capture that feeling of being on tour as part of an upcoming band.
Each tour will have you playing a bunch of different venues, and each of those give you the choice of one of 3 set lists. There's usually one pre-made set list of songs from the disc, while the other 2 will often be random or custom set lists that will dive into your entire catalogue. There will even be tailor-made set lists based on your DLC, so if you've got a lot of 9 Inch Nails DLC, then you'll likely get the chance to play an entire 9 Inch Nails set.
The key to progressing is by beating challenges, which earns you fans, which in turn unlocks more road tours. There's a challenge for just about everything, and you can beat them in any game mode, so you're always progressing through the career.
And unlike Rock Band 1, you won't lose fans for failed performances, and in fact you can even turn on no fail and still progress through the career. And even without no fail, you can keep going after you failed.
Yeah, it's great if you're trying to learn a pro instrument and want to have a go without getting booed off in the first 30 seconds, or if you just got a mate who's a bit of a noob. But anyway, let's wrap this up.
Yes. Well, on the one hand, you can enjoy this just like any other music game and have a really good time. On the other, you can go that step further and have a much more rewarding experience, and that'll teach you something. Like we said, we haven't tested out the pro guitar with 6 strings or the pro drum kits, but I don't think music games can get much better than this, Hex, to be honest. It maybe if they actually made you famous and gave you millions of dollars. So I'm giving this 9 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Look, I really think this is a game that the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. You can just play this like regular Guitar Hero, but you'll be missing out on so much. I mean, the slick presentation and the great songs makes this a 9 out of 10 from me too. Oh, and the fact that it teaches you how to play a real instrument. So, I mean, assuming the fact that the pro guitar works and everything.
Yeah, assuming it works.
Yeah, conditional.
Plus it's got Sister Christian, which is the best song ever made.
How does it go? You don't remember?
No, it goes, hang on. It goes. Sister Christian is... I don't know the words.
Sister Christian, oh, the time has come.
Once you ran and find him, and put him side beside him.
Yeah.
I don't need to know how it goes.
Rock and roll.
I know it's the best song in the world. Come on, Barjo, we need to get back to work. Ooh, Cascade.
What are you doing in there?
Just a minute! It's been a rough couple of years for the Australian games industry, with many of our big studios shutting down. But there is still one market that we're dominating in, and that's mobile gaming. We sent our field reporter Ajax out to investigate.
Mobile gaming. In the past few years, it's evolved from simple time wasters on unwieldy handsets to become a legitimate gaming platform. And Australian game developers have been at the forefront of innovation right from the start.
Environment's been making games for quite a few years, and it was actually back in 2002 that we started making games for mobile phones. In those days, it was quite difficult to publish your own games on mobile phones because the ecosystem was very complicated. So you'd have telecommunications companies, you'd have aggregators, you'd have distributors, and for a small studio like us, it really wasn't possible just to go and develop our own original titles.
Half-Brick Studios started way back in 2001. It was formed by 6 guys sort of fresh out of Quantum College. And we were pretty naive back then, and we wanted to take on the world, so we decided to set up our own studio, rather than working for someone else. I think the smartphone market is certainly going to provide a lot of opportunities for Australian developers, particularly smaller independent developers. To get your games out onto those platforms now is easier than it's ever been before.
Because it's only a touchscreen platform, they're really, challenging to develop for in terms of controls, making a game that's really intuitive and works properly, with the screens. But clearly people are doing it, and when they get the right idea, it really works, and people get really excited. That's that's your Fruit Ninja, your Flight Control, your Doodle Jump. Those are the ones that are really going to stand out.
The biggest thing that the App Store really did for us was to give us autonomy. So it gave us this channel for creating and then publishing our own games and really making the kind of games that we really want to make.
It's amazing, the introduction of smartphones has really just blown the games industry wide open. The low cost of, creating something, you can turn it around really fast. And not only that, but once it's out, it's not just out there for gamers. It's, almost everyone has an iPhone now. The market is monstrous, and so there's a lot of low risk of entry, but also, potentially really high returns.
Half-Brick and Firemint may be the biggest local players in smartphone game development, but this new technology has also allowed much smaller teams to break into the industry.
I think it's like a gold rush. There's opportunity there. If you jump in now and establish, you're going to be there for a long, long time.
We had a few big dreams of what potentially could happen, and we had a few more realistic expectations of where we could go, and based on our predictions. And I think we've gone more towards the realistic side, and after a lot of extra hard work, updating new features, we've actually done pretty well for ourselves.
The risk is that there's so many apps on it that you can easily get swallowed up. It's more about trying to get the game known before you actually publish it, and that is probably the secret. You can make the best game in the world, but if nobody knows about it, what's the point? If you can do that and do it successfully, you can compete with a company like EA. So in a way, it's even keeled it out for independent developers. Put it this way, we've made enough to have a comfortable living, reinvest in the company. Sure, our next game could be the next one that goes up in the top of the charts.
Yeah, we're going to make millions with the next one, for sure. Yeah.
But
that's not really why we do it anyway.
It's just for the fun of it.
The smartphone platform has opened up loads of new opportunities for Australian game developers. But are these successes likely to continue?
I think the future's really bright for Half-Brick, but not just Half-Brick. I think the Australian games industry, there's just so many opportunities, I wish that we started Half-Brick in times like these, would have fast-tracked our development.
I've given up predicting what the future's going to hold, except, it's going to get bigger and everyone's going to have one, and there's going to be a lot of people fighting over that market.
I love the casual market, that's where we're in. I'm not sure where the casual, hardcore balance will come on smartphones in future, but I'm excited to see where that goes, and we'll definitely be ready for anything that happens.
It's quite challenging to be a game development studio in Australia, just from being so distant from our main markets. If anything, being in Australia is an obstacle and a hurdle, so maybe it's just that we have to try harder.
This is a great idea.
Yeah.
If I knew what the future was for the smartphone industry, I would probably quit my job, do whatever it was going to be, and just get filthy rich. Let's go.
Good game.
Oh, Ezio, you're so sexy. I know, I can't resist myself. Oh, the pull is too strong.
Now it's time for Ask Good Game, where we take your itchiest questions and apply the salve of revelation.
First is from Hayden in Oak Park, Melbourne. When will Minecraft be moved from alpha to beta? I'm getting really bored of the horrible graphics and square box type of gameplay. Thanks for writing in, Hayden. Marcus Notch Pearson, the creator of Minecraft, is moving swiftly to upgrade the game. He's formed a small company and hired staff to take care of the business side of things, so he can concentrate all of his efforts on moving Minecraft into beta. He hasn't given us an exact date, but at this rate it could be in just a few short months' time.
Notch has also hired Junkboy, one of the best pixel artists in Sweden, so you can expect Minecraft's blocks to get a new lick of paint in the near future. They won't be getting rid of the blocks though, they're sort of central to the whole game. Next we've got this question from Dark Cryland from the Gold Coast. How do I make portals in Minecraft?
Thanks for the letter, Darkrai Land. To make portals, you'll need obsidian, a rare kind of stone that you can make by cooling lava with water. You can only mine obsidian with a diamond pick, and you can only mine diamond with a steel pick.
You'll need a minimum of 10 obsidian blocks to surround a gap 3 blocks high and 2 blocks across. The outer corners don't need to be obsidian, but you may want to use it anyway, for aesthetics.
Once you've made your portal, use a flint and steel to ignite it and then step into the gap. After a brief loading screen, you'll be hurled into the Nether, a parallel universe where each step equals 8 in the normal world, and it's perfect for fast travel, but watch out for the ghasts. Those giant floating squid blocks will shoot exploding fireballs at you non-stop.
Oh, look at the time. I don't have a watch. That's the end of our Squid Game for this week. See you later.
Good game.
It's been only a year since we prowled the Venetian rooftops as Ezio in Assassin's Creed 2, and now we have the follow-up game Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Badge, it's no secret that I'm a huge fan of the Assassin's Creed series, but with big love comes big expectation, and I'm not so sure about this one.
But Hex, I thought you had an unconditional love for stabbing people in the face.
No, I do. So let's have a look at what Brotherhood brings to the table. First of all, the game picks up pretty much where AC2 left off, but it's not long before the piece of Eden you spent the entire previous game trying to get your hands on is stolen again, so you have to get it back again.
Right off the bat, the story isn't that inspired, and it's pretty clear here that the devs had big plans for Assassin's Creed 2 and just couldn't fit all that in the game, so they put a lot of it in here, and this feels like a really big expansion. Unfortunately, that means the narrative does suffer a bit.
Yeah, I mean, this really is far too big a game to even come close to being labelled an expansion, and there are some brilliant new additions to the gameplay.
That's why it sounds a really big expansion.
I got that. Much like the way you upgraded your hometown of Montergione in AC2, this time you're going to completely renovate and take control of the entire city of Rome. You create alliances and develop factions for 3 guilds: thieves, courtesans, and mercenaries who'll assist you in your takeover.
The city is broken up into regions that are each controlled by an enemy Borgia guard tower, headed up by a guard captain who needs to be taken out first. They've really increased the difficulty here, which is great. Towers are harder to climb, the other guards are frustratingly well placed, AI is smart. You'll be hard pressed to get close without being detected, so it might take a few attempts to get close to that captain.
Yeah, often I just get frustrated and make a mad dash for him, and then of course all hell would break loose. But it's hilariously manic when that happens, and taking on all of those guards is a nightmare made sweeter by some seriously refined and updated combat. There is, of course, a great array of weapons from knives to hammers, but I still prefer fighting with those hidden blades. They're just so fast and deadly. Guards can grab you in a hold now, which you need to shake free of, but you also have a kick to break through enemy blocks to get those strikes in.
I love the addition of a kill streak, Hex. Attacking one guard repeatedly will build up a possible run of slaughter in which every enemy goes down in one fatal blow. You get any damage, and then that kill streak is over.
One of the other biggest changes to the combat is that horses can now be ridden inside cities, and guards attacking from horses is seriously deadly, so you need to try and get close to them and just pull them off. And the horses really look fantastic now, don't they?
Yeah, we spoke to one of the devs recently who freely admitted that after seeing Red Dead Redemption, they had to completely rethink how horses were used in their game. And that influence is really obvious, and I don't mind because they borrowed some great features from a great game and it worked.
Yeah, and that interview is up on our website, by the way. We did have some awesome horseback shenanigans, didn't we?
Ah, yes. My lovely horse.
Now you've done it.
Leaping from one horse to another is really cool. But just being able to ride through cities on horseback is such a treat. I love the way crowds of people are just knocked aside like bowling pins as you come crashing through.
Yeah, except the button to call your horse is also the same button to read signs and stuff, so quite often I'd be looking at something, then I'd accidentally call my horse and I'd hear him plodding up behind me, and then he'd just follow me around for a bit. Go away!
Oh, but he loves you.
Hello.
I'm happy to report that the jumping puzzles from AC2 are back. They're one of my favourite things in AC2, so I was really glad to see them return. They're more sort of run-down old buildings this time though, rather than some of the epic cathedrals and tombs from AC2, so I didn't find them as visually impressive, but still a great way to break up the gameplay. Especially since some of the main story missions can tend to get a little bit repetitive.
Yeah, there are a lot of side quests if you want to add some variety in there, and some of them are quite bizarre, like this wooden tank medieval thing, and where you have to kidnap this angry woman. And there's one mission where you have to save Jesus.
Who are you?
Your savior.
It's not actually Jesus.
Or is it? Side quests are great if you want to add variety, but if you stick to the main story, it will send you on a lot of escort and tail and assassinate missions. I kind of wish more of that variety had been in there. In many of these missions, being detected by a guard, even if you kill him a moment after he sees you, will cause you to desynchronize, and that just doesn't seem fair. The guy's not going to live to tell anyone you're there, so why does it matter?
Yeah, it seems a bit excessive. I guess they just really wanted to push the stealth. I mean, that's your thing, you know. No one's ever meant to see Ezio, they just die.
True, and all this becomes easier once you develop your own Assassin's Guild, which is probably the biggest new feature in the game. Dotted around the city are troubled vagabond citizens who are being hassled by guards. Save them and they'll ask to join your band of merry men.
Oh, and women. In fact, the first 2 assassins I recruited were chicks, so they were the first to be leveled up, and they were badass. Sending your assassins out on various missions throughout Europe will allow them to build up their assassin skills and assist you in a tight spot. When one of your assassin signal bars is full, you can hit left button to call in your guys to take out guards for you or help you out in a fight. They're quick as lightning and vanish as quickly as they came. It cycles on a timer though, so you need to really pick your moments and use this advantage well.
Yeah, I really liked having an ace up my sleeve for those hairy situations. I did find once you build up a decent amount of killer buddies, sending them all out on missions all the time just to level them up got a little tedious.
Yeah, plus when they're out on missions they can't be called in to assist, so again, pick your moments well. There is a lot to think about, and I liked that. This is an equally big game with some beautiful areas and those historic monuments, but being able to climb the Colosseum was just awesome. And truly this is a completist's nightmare, or dream come true, I'm not sure, because there's just so much to be done and so many things to collect. Renovating the entire city of Rome is a mammoth job, and you can't purchase from doctors or armories or tailors until you've renovated them first, so until you've built up an income, this can get kind of limiting.
And the city is huge. There's all these underground tunnels now to help you get about, but kind of like flight paths in WoW, you can't travel to them until you've been there first. And then you also have to renovate them, and that costs money, and they could have at least given us that. The final big addition to the game is the multiplayer, and we've been on the beta, so we've only been able to test out one game mode, but Hex, to be honest, it didn't really grab me.
Yeah, Ubisoft said they added the multiplayer because so many people were asking for it. I don't know who these people were, but I wasn't one of them. But, you know, I thought it could be kind of cool, so I was pretty excited when I got my beta key. But it just wasn't what I expected, and I don't think the game really needed it, to be honest.
In the wanted game mode, you're thrown into a match with 8 players and given a specific target which you have to hunt down. In place of a mini-map, you have a ring at the bottom of your screen which acts as a compass and fills up as you draw near your target. And depending on which character you play, you have a different special ability you can use for a swift assassination. It reminded me of this little game called The Ship, which was all about taking down other players, but it didn't seem to capture that same sort of tension that game had. So I don't know, I just got really bored.
Yeah, I found it a little bit underwhelming. You just sort of walk around in circles trying to draw as little attention to yourself as possible so that you don't get assassinated while trying to find your target and then hitting square when you get close to them. It's just kind of lame. But we did only have access to the one game mode, so hopefully some of the other game modes will offer a little bit more.
There is a lot crammed into this game, but you know what, Hex? Towards the end, I had this lingering feeling that a lot of it was just a chore.
Yeah, I don't mind all the work that they've crammed into the game, but you know, I start to have the same feeling. I was really trying to put my finger on why this just didn't feel as fun for me, so I thought long and hard about what made AC2 such a great game, and You know, I think it was the story, the idea of being motivated by a story that's pulling you through. The friendship Ezio has with Leonardo da Vinci and all those crazy gadgets he makes for you, the mystery, the intrigue, that festival, the loss you suffer at the beginning that fuels your revenge, and all the allies that you make that teach you to become the assassin you are today. All of these things just, you know, it pulled the story along and made you feel excited about reaching the end. And well, here I didn't really feel like there was any of that. In Brotherhood, you do get a sense of working towards something monumental, but that something just didn't really arrive for me. And even Ezio himself falls a little flat. I mean, in AC2, he was driven to succeed, but he was also a cheeky, flirtatious Italian dude. You know, he's a great character and he was wonderful to play, whereas now he's just kind of grumpy and bitter, and none of the characters in Brotherhood really stood out to me at all.
Yeah, none of them were memorable. I think at one point we even muted the sound and just made up our own dialogue in those cutscenes. Just tuned out. Manly hug!
Oh, yes, you have such a firm chest.
Touch me again and I'll cut you.
Oh, I can't help it, it's so firm.
Yeah, whatever. Where's my wife? Wife!
Did you lose
wife?
her?
Where are my sandwiches?
Maybe she ate them all.
Yeah, she probably did.
Oh,
she is.
Hello, I have arrived. I've just been eating
Yeah, this is Ezio. This is Sandwich Wife.
Some sandwiches. Oh, you're a sexy man. Wish my husband wore sexy robes
You'd
like
be
this.
to have cheese on your finger.
I'm a very messy eater, I'm sorry.
Yeah, take it away from her, I'll cut you. So anyway. So, final thoughts?
You know, I thought I wasn't ready to let go of the Ezio story, and well, it's clear the devs weren't either, but I just don't know that all of these new additions were enough to warrant an entirely new game, especially when so little effort was put into making the story compelling. Now I kind of just wish they'd saved all of this stuff for a potential Assassin's Creed 3 with a new character, a new setting, and best of all, a new story. You know, then I would have been truly blown away. As a fan, it's bittersweet because while I was thrilled at the chance to play as Ezio again, I was kind of disappointed. It's still such a big, beautiful game though, with so much to do, so I have to give it 8, but I very nearly scored it lower.
There is some padding here, and it does feel a bit grindy. The new additions to single player are excellent, but I think you're right, Hex. They would have had much more impact in a true sequel, so I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I still have a lot of love and hope for the series though. To the end.
You're a weird person.
I just like stabbing people.
Good game.
So, did you guess the game for this week? Of course you did, for it was Frequency on the PlayStation 2, the very first music rhythm game from rock band creators Harmonix.
Next week we shall return with an hour-long Christmas extravaganza where we try to cram in as many game reviews as possible.
Including the brand new with Microsoft's entry into the motion control gaming space, the Kinect, and its launch titles. I hope you like jumping.
And the old mate new again with Donkey Kong Country returns.
Don't forget to drop by the forums and cast your vote in the Good Game Awards for 2010. And while you're there, check out all the extra stuff we've got online. Great stuff that we just couldn't fit in the show, like interviews with the developer of Brotherhood and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit.
This time around, we were really due for a revamp on the horse. So we redid the code, behavior, navigation. So it is much more fluid, especially after Red Dead Redemption.
Don't forget, Spawn Point over on ABC3 has reviews of Sonic Colors as well as Bakugan Defenders of the Core and this thing.
What is that?
It's a game.
Oh, it's an FPS?
It's an FBS. It's a first baby shooter. It's got a Wiimote for a spine. Until next week, gamers, Barjo out.
Hex out.
I call him Gary.